U.S. places sanctions on International Criminal Court prosecutor for investigating U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
Here's a summary of the article.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced sanctions Wednesday on the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Fatou Bensouda, objecting to the investigation of U.S. soldiers for alleged war crimes in Afghanistan. Also added to the U.S. sanctions blacklist was Fakiso Mochichoko, director of the ICC's Jurisdiction, Complementary and Cooperation Division, for having materially assisted prosecutor Bensouda, Pompeo said. Pompeo said other ICC officials have already faced denial of visas to the United States over the investigations of U.S. military personnel. Today we take the next step. Because the ICC continues to target Americans, sadly, he said. He added that visa restrictions and broader sanctions could be applied to those helping Bensouda and Mochichoko. The move came after President Donald Trump authorized sanctions on the Hague-based tribunal on June 11 for probing and prosecuting U.S. troops. Pompeo at the time referred to the ICC as a «kangaroo court», and warned that if U.S. soldiers are investigated by it, those of U.S. allies in Afghanistan risk the same threat.
This post received a score of 27,000, with an upvote ratio of 95%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
We are putting sanctions on an investigator for investigating because the investigation targets the people being investigated? What?
Yes, this has major implications worldwide if this becomes status quo.
Only if the world does something, which they won't.
The U.S. refusing to cooperate with, or worse, penalizing ICC investigators sets a global precedent that no country needs to cooperate with the ICC. The next African despot to face charges can now just point to America and say, the largest democratic country in the world doesn't recognize your authority, so neither do we. The U.S. was a major reason the current international system exists in the first place, and may be the reason it falls apart as well.
This has been this way since the very beginning of the ICC, though. Actually, back in 1919, when the League of Nations was founded, one of the arguments given by the U.S. Senate to not ratify that part of the Treaty of Versailles is that the U.S. would not subject itself to an international court ever. So, while everything you are saying is true and correct, I only want to point out that the U.S. has never truly, fully, irrevocably and without reserve recognized the jurisdiction of either the ICJ or the ICC.
Yeah, I understand that. Although technically the U.S. did actively participate in the drafting of, and then did in fact sign, the Rome Statute in 2000 under Clinton. Bush then refused to submit it for ratification, and ultimately withdrew from the statute in 2002. Realistically, it doesn't matter even if we had ratified it. Our current administration doesn't seem to care about silly things like binding commitments or international treaties when it finds them inconvenient.
To be honest though, recognition or not, they are now putting sanctions on people for doing their job in the name of the international community. They could just let the trials happen and not recognize the ruling, but they chose to add sanctions not even towards the institution but aimed directly at actual people. This is straightforward intimidation and the international diplomacy equivalent of killing a judge's family for being on your case.
Trump and his ilk of co-conspirators are not satisfied with destroying America from within, and they have exercised from without to disrupt, defang and delegitimize global institutions in their already tenuous efforts to find a better world. We need the FBI now. All the while, the police don't even do real crime.
He is absolutely following Putin's playbook. Putin's been upset ever since the Magnitsky Act put sanctions on his stolen money. Amazing they haven't managed to repeal that act yet.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.